the messaging of your cells and the Earth's messaging of its cells is remarkably different. Conceptually, it is the same, but it is much more complex. And so before we continue on with that explanation, what we are going to do is we're going to invite the Earth being into this discussion so that it can explain these differences and then also lay out what its basic message is to you. So, let us take a moment to make the connection. Hi, I'm Muzz, iEvolv, and welcome to today's channeling session. Please like, subscribe, comment, share on this video because it's just so helpful for me to be able to continue to make these for you week after week for free and with love. If you haven't read this book yet, then I highly recommend you do. This book contains a message which, if embraced by humanity, would literally change the planet in a transformative way, and it would be better for everybody. So if you haven't read it yet, you can read it in the paperback or the audiobook or the ebook, and the link below going to the site where you can do that is all below. Also below is a link going to a inquiry form if you're interested in private channeling. So all you do is go there, fill it out, and that'll just start a conversation, doesn't obligate you to anything. If you would like to donate to the cause here, just so I can keep the lights on and some food in my belly while I continue to do this, then below you'll see there is a link going to Subscribestar, and there's another link going to PayPal. There's the two options you can use to send me a donation if you would like to do that. And on to today's question. It is, what is the Earth's message to you? Greetings and thank you for the question. What is the Earth's message to you? We have decided to answer this question today because the Earth is in continuous communication with you. And if you are going to live as an awakened being, then it would be obvious that you are receptive to that message and you behave in accordance with that message. Now you may ask, why should you listen to the Earth? Why should you be aware of the message and even change the way that you are in accordance with the message? Well, the most simple and obvious explanation is that you are the Earth. The Earth is you. So it is the expanded definition of self talking to self. It is your own message coming from an expanded identity. So let's explain this concept of the expanded identity. You exist in a fractal universe where you have a larger pattern which originates with the one, and then smaller repetitions of the same pattern contained within, contained within, contained within, contained within. If you are familiar with the concept of the fractal, then you understand the basics of what we are saying. So the fractal, which is pertinent to this discussion, is the idea that you are a group being because the one is a group being. And this is the fractal repeating. So, everything is contained within the one. All densities, all matter, all entities, all galaxies, planets, species, and so on. It is all contained within the one. And not as if the one is like a container, but rather it is the one. So, the one is all of these things at the same time. All of these planetary beings, all of these star beings, all of these galaxy beings, all of these spatial beings, all of these plant beings, all of these microorganisms and insects and so on. So if the one is all of these things, then this is the same as saying that the one is a group being. And then the next increment of the fractal contained within this ultimate being, the one, is the galaxy being. And contained within the galaxy being are the star beings and the planetary beings and the human beings and the animal beings and the insect beings and the bacterial beings and so on. So it also is a group being. And then contained within the galaxy being are the star system beings. And again, they are a star being and a planetary beings, and in the case of the solar system, the human beings and the dolphin beings and the primate beings and the fish beings and so on. So the star being also is a group being. And then you look at the planetary being. Using Earth as the example, all of these beings, which we keep repeating, are also part of the Earth being. So the Earth being is a group being. And then contained within the Earth being are special beings, entire species which together form a single being. So humanity is a group being. The humanity being is a single being of many parts, and one of those parts is you. And you are comprised of 30 to 40 trillion cells. And each of those cells have a rudimentary form of consciousness. So you yourself are a group being. And your cells are comprised of many trillions of atoms. And each of those atoms are a fragment of consciousness, fragment of the consciousness of the one. So in a definition, even your cells are group beings. And the atoms themselves are comprised of subatomic particles. So they also are group beings because the subatomic particles are fragments of consciousness. And on and on and on and on and on, because as you will discover, there is no smallest particle. Every time humanity believes they have discovered the smallest particle, they will later realize that they have not, because as technology improves, they realize it is possible to divide what was previously thought to be the smallest particle into yet smaller particles. And on and on and on it will go, until eventually humanity will make the philosophical decision to recognize that there does not appear to be a smallest particle. And therefore, every particle in existence is infinitely divisible, which means every single particle in existence is a group being. The never-ending fractal, that everything in existence is a group being. So, as you are part of this group being, which is your special group, the humanity being, and it is part of the larger, the next increment, the earth being, then by extrapolation, this is the same as saying that you are the earth being. And just as you are communicating with your cells, the earth being is communicating with its cells, and those include you. So you could say that the humanity being, your special group, is like an organ of the earth being. And contained within that organ are the individual cells, the individual aspects of the humanity being, the individual humans. You are a cell of the humanity being, which is an organ of the earth being. This is metaphorical. So, just as you are communicating with your cells, the earth being is communicating with its cells. Now, you are not communicating at a conscious level, but rather it is happening subconsciously. And there is evidence that you are communicating with yourself subconsciously, because in some people, they live in a state of perfect health because their cells seem to know what to do, and they don't go outside of those parameters. They do exactly what they need to do. But for other people, the cells start behaving in ways which are actually counter to the health of the individual. So the cells start attacking other cells, which they shouldn't do. It's autoimmunity, an autoimmune disease, or cancer, and so on. So why is it that for one individual, they have a situation where their individual cells are attacking them, whereas for others, their individual cells are doing exactly what they should be doing? It is because there is a difference in the messaging. For the person that is having problems with their cells attacking them, they are broadcasting an energetic quality or signature into their experience, which includes into their body, which is messaging their cells to behave in ways which are not conducive to health. Whereas the individual who has very good cell function, they are broadcasting an energetic signature into their reality, into their experience, including their body, which is very coherent and congruent with the concept of good health. This, of course, is happening at a subconscious level, but nonetheless, you are communicating with the cells of your body so that your cells will lovingly obey and do what it is that you are commanding them to do, even when your messaging is chaotic. It is a cacophony, an incongruency, incoherency. Still, your cells lovingly will obey that message which disrupts the health within. But the messaging of your cells and the Earth's messaging of its cells is remarkably different. Conceptually, it is the same, but it is much more complex. And so, before we continue on with that explanation, what we are going to do is we're going to invite the Earth being into this discussion so that it can explain these differences and then also lay out what its basic message is to you. So, let us take a moment to make the connection. Thank you for the invitation to be part of this discussion. And you have invited me in at the perfect moment. In fact, you were intuitively sensing that I was wishing to enter the conversation at this time, because I would like to explain this next concept myself. As was said in the early part of this channel, there is a fractal equality to the nature of my body and the nature of your body. Your body is comprised of many trillions of cells, and my body in a similar way is comprised of many trillions of cells. But what is different is that what we are using metaphorically to represent the cell in my body is a much more complex organism than what we are calling the cell in your body. The cell in your body is literally a single cell, whereas what we are saying metaphorically as the cell in my body are complex organisms. And the more complex an organism becomes, the more conscious it is, then the more free will it possesses. So, when there is a large being such as myself that is trying to create an internal harmony with its many internal constituents, its many individuations, and those individuations are beings which possess a high degree of free will, then it is a much more complex undertaking than it is for you. Your cells also possess a degree of free will. And this is how it's possible to have the scenario where you have cells within your body that are misbehaving and doing what they should not do. And so they are attacking other cells and causing internal problems. This could only occur if that cell had some degree of free will and was able to go outside of the parameters of its specialized function. It does so not because it is malicious, but rather because it is confused. It is behaving in a way which is aligned with the messaging it is receiving. Yet it is the message itself which is confusing. So, for you to have perfect internal health, then you must have a very clarified message, which is your energetic broadcast into your experience, which includes your body. However, for me, it is a much more complex conundrum, because the degree of free will which is granted to these aspects within myself, which are the apex sentience, meaning humanity, is very extensive. And because humanity has not yet passed through the full gauntlet of the 3D to emerge into the fourth density state in realization of what it actually is, then it is at the moment not very connected and aware of the messaging that I'm sending. So this channeling session is a wonderful opportunity for me to bring some clarity and some insight into what the messaging is and why it is so important, particularly at this time. It is my desire that I ascend. And when I ascend, I wish to ascend as completely as I possibly can. Meaning that as much of my beingness as possible makes the ascension into the next harmonic. And as humanity is part of me, then this is the same as saying, I wish for all of humanity to make that ascension with me, so we, as the integrated, unified being, shift to the next harmonic. However, there are forces within the human field and also extraterrestrial which have a vested interest in humanity not making the transition through 3D, which culminates in awakening and then ascension. Because if this did occur, then they would be rendered impotent in their power, and all that they have built over many generations would be lost. So they are manipulating your cultures, your societies, all of your knowledge to prohibit you as a species making this very natural and organic and even ordained movement into the next matrix state, the fourth density. Therefore, the sacred knowledge which is essential to make this shift has been expunged from your societies and hoarded by those that wish to use it to their own advantage for suppressing humanity. But in this transmission, I am going to share with you some of these sacred knowledges so that you can begin to work with me to achieve this unified objective. What is important to understand is that what is occurring here in this solar system is very unique. Prior to the formation of this solar system, there had never been a planet within existence that had ascended. Planets are very long living beings that exist in a static state They are growing, but they are not ascending. However, because the apex sentience beings that were birthed into creation within the soul system being were done so without the three fundamental understandings that they are connected to the One, they are connected to each other within their special group to form the single being, and they are the light and nothing but the light. So what is occurring here is very unique, because the default mechanism for new species being birthed into creation throughout existence is to be birthed already with those three fundamental understandings. And so there does not require a process of realization, because it is already known. However, for humanity to become into possession of these three fundamental understandings, then it must be a process of realization over many incarnations. This one being, the humanity being, will very slowly, as cells come and cells go and cells come and cells go, and by cells we mean you, the individual humans within this larger being, come and go, and this larger being continues to roll on through time, slowly gathering experience of itself, and therefore understanding of itself through a process of revelation and realization, eventually coming to the culmination of the purpose of the third density experience for the earth humanity being. To realize that it is connected to the One, that each of the individuations are connected to each other, and that each of you are the light and nothing but the light. And this will be the realization which is made possible by the ascension event. But it is coming very close to the ascension event, which actually makes the ascension event possible. So humanity, while still within the 3D, will come very close to having full and total realization of these three fundamental understandings. But they cannot be fully integrated and incorporated into your beingness until you have ascended into the fourth density, because it is just not a capacity of the third density state, but it is a capacity of the fourth density state. So it is like the singularity that can never be touched within the 3D. One must pass through the singularity and be birthed into the fourth density state from the birth canal of ascension, and then be in possession of these understandings. So this process of realization is the same as saying that humanity must experiment with the spiritual spectrum. If it is the light and nothing but the light, it cannot know that if it has, or unless it has already realized it is not the darkness. I am not the darkness, therefore what am I? I must be the light. This is the process of realization. And so, to know that you are not the darkness means you must experiment with the darkness. You must play with the darkness. You must identify with the darkness and have a belief that you are the darkness. Because it is only through this mechanism that you can feel the incongruency with the darkness and make the realization, make the choice that I am not going to be dark in that way anymore. I am not going to treat those people that way. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to steal. I'm not going to harm. I'm not going to be violent. Maliciously violent, because there are times where violence is of the light. However, this is the process of playing and toying with the darkness, and slowly, each of you individually, through many incarnations, more and more feeling an incongruency with the darkness and coming to the place of realizing that you are the light. This is important to this discussion, this concept, because it implies that the Earth human, in its history, has been very deeply immersed into the darkness, very much acting from and playing with and identifying with the darkness in this process of realization over time. And so, during those eras that were very dark, humanity was vibrating at a very low and dense frequency, the humanity being as a whole. And so it was essential for this to be possible that I, the Earth, was compatible with a species vibrating that lowly. And then as humanity passes through this gauntlet of the 3D experience, realizing more and more it is a light until eventually reaching the end of the 3D experience and ascending into the fourth density state. At that point, the humanity being will be vibrating at a very high frequency. The range between where it has come from and where it shall arrive is so broad that it is unprecedented. Never before in the history of creation has a single species covered so much vibrational range. And so, because of this unprecedented range of frequency over which your species will traverse, then it requires a very special type of planet. Because a planet which is compatible with a species which vibrates so lowly cannot also be compatible with a species that vibrates so highly. So this necessitated that a new type of planet be manifested into creation. And that is a planet which can ascend. And this is what I shall do, to serve this function, to continue to be the host for you, the humanity being. But of course, from the expanded context, it is all me. This is part of my evolution. And then from the expanded context, it is the solar system being's evolution. And then from the yet larger context, it is the Milky Way galaxy being's evolution. And of course, in the ultimate iteration of the fractal, it is the one's evolution. It is the one toying with the illusion of individuation so that it can fulfill its divine purpose, which is to know itself to completion through experience. So, for me to make this ascension into a higher density state as completely as I can means that you, the individual who is listening to this, also must be bundled up in that ascension. This is what I desire, because you are me, and I wish to take as much of me as I can into the next density state. So I am continuously messaging you an energy cadence, a rhythm, a tone, which is specifically intended to harmonize you into my beingness, so that together we have a coherency, a congruency, much the way that the cells of a healthy person behave with a coherency, with a congruency. So all that they do is in service to this larger objective. For the human, the larger objective is to, from the context of the cell, to continue on, to perpetuate in perfect health. In this context which we are speaking of now, in regard to me and you, the individual, us working cooperatively so that we can accomplish this mission which we both share together. Because we are both going to ascend. So, this is what I would like you to begin doing in a more conscious way. You can never be separated from me because you are me. We are energetically tethered. Even if an individual has no appreciation and love for nature, even they hate nature. They never go into nature. They avoid nature at all costs. Even so, they are still connected to me by default because they are part of me. But when there is this sense of separation, there is no mutual appreciation, then this is when the messaging isn't heard and the confusion of the individual in their free will state results in them behaving in ways which are abhorrent to the larger organism, to the expanded definition of self, which is me. And they start doing things which are harmful to this expanded definition of themselves, where they pollute nature or they cut down trees and so on. But even more harmful is that they continue to fork away from this path we share together of heading towards our mutual ascension. But if that individual was to make an effort to be more connected to nature, to spend more time in nature, to have a mutual appreciation for nature. And I say mutual because I am always loving you, because you are me and I have a profound self-love. So when I say a mutual love, it does not imply that I'm going to begin loving you when you begin loving me, but instead that you will complete the other side of this relationship and you'll start loving me back the way that I love you. And when we shift to that type of dynamic, then very naturally you will begin to harmonize with my vibration. And my vibration is very focused and aligned with the vibratory qualities of ascension, because this is my focus. This is where I'm heading. This is my evolution. I am very conscious of who I am and where I am heading. Resultingly, my energetic quality is very aligned with this understanding I have of self. And when you start forming a closer relationship with me, you will very naturally begin to become more harmonized with this same mission. And particularly, if you are conscious, which you should be now after hearing this discussion, that this is where we are heading together, then this will align you even more. So, to harmonize to the maximum degree, so that I can assist you to the maximum degree, and you can become fully conversant in a vibratory sense with my messaging, then it is important that we meld into the same being. Now, this does not mean that you go and bury yourself in the backyard, but what it does mean is that we begin to perceive each other, or more particularly, you begin to perceive me as an extension of you. You begin to consciously recognize that you are an aspect of me, this larger definition of what you are. You are a fractal embedded within a fractal, embedded within me, another fractal. So we are the same being. And when you begin to coalesce your identity in that way, then you are inviting in the messaging which I'm continuously broadcasting. And the messaging I am broadcasting is unique in its tonality to you, the individual. I am a very long living being, so it could be said that I have very long thoughts, as all ancient beings do. So, it could be said, just as an example, just to give it an illustrative understanding, that my thoughts go from ice age to ice age, or from extinction event to extinction event. Very long thoughts indeed. So I do not have a perception of you, the individual. I am aware that you exist, just as you are aware that your cells within your body exist, yet you do not have a perceptive awareness of the individual cells. But you do have a perceptive awareness of what these cells together form, which is your body. In a similar way, I have a perceptive awareness of the humanity being, but I do not have a perceptive awareness of you, the individual. However, even so, I am still able to give you a very specific message which is aligned to you, the individual. Because this is part of the subconscious nature, the innate capacities with which I was blessed in my creation. Very much the same as you are giving a very specific message to your cells, so that your individual cells, one particular cell, will go and consume those bacteria, while the other cells will do something else. So this is a very specific message and understanding that cell is receiving about what it is intended to do. And this is because this is the very specific messaging it is receiving from you. Yet you are not doing it consciously. It is occurring at a subconscious level. It is an innate quality you have blessed with when you were created. So, the point of saying that, of illustrating this idea that you are receiving a message which is very perfectly attuned to you, the individual, is to invite you to have a very profound trust in nature and understand that I serve you in the most perfect way that I can. In terms of energetic supplementation that I'm giving to you, the vibratory quality, the tone of the energy which I'm broadcasting to you, the individual, is perfectly attuned to who you are and where you are at in your life, in your awakening, in the expansion of your consciousness. And so it is like the perfect fitting glove. If you go into nature and just allow yourself to harmonize with me to the maximum degree, so that there is a mutual appreciation and love to the point where they coalesce into the same appreciation and the same love as the single being, then you will be endowed with an energetic quality which is perfectly attuned to who you are and where you're at, in regard to this joint mission we are on. And it is a very pleasant experience to go into nature and to harmonize with me, which is to say, to harmonize with this expanded definition of who you actually are. This is a pleasant experience. This is something which is very fulfilling and will give you a greater sense of peace, of love, of tranquility, of assuredness, of grounding. So, I am not asking you to do something which is difficult. Instead, I am reminding you of your relationship that has always existed. There was a time when humanity spent much more of its existence immersed in this expanded aspect of self, surrounded by the trees, swimming in the river, eating the fruits and the flesh directly from my environment, as it was intended to be, in a very natural and organic way. So I am not asking you to do something new, but instead I am awakening you to how you have lived before in past lifetimes. Just this very simple gesture of becoming more connected to nature, which of course is synonymous with saying more connected with me, then this will have a resonant effect on those around you. And as it becomes more of a way of being where humans begin to connect more with nature, You invite your partner, you invite your children, you invite your friends, your relatives to come and spend some time in nature. And then when in nature, encourage them to feel the connection. Put your hand on this tree. Can you feel the energy of this tree? Stand here in the breeze looking out over that beautiful vista. Can you feel the love that nature has for you? Through this simple commentary, you will begin to awaken an understanding which lays dormant within the modern human being. And the connection that is shared will be intensified. And if this becomes more of a way, if it spreads throughout humanity, then when the ascension event does occur, and I ascend into the next density state, I will do so as completely as is possible, meaning that as much of the humanity being you, the individual, will be included as is possible. So the transmission has completed. The earth being has disconnected. And when we say the earth being, understand the earth being is a very long living being. And so for it to join this discussion, it must shift its focus so that its focus is very condensed. So rather than being observant of eons, it is observant of moments. So that this transmission can be possible. And that is part of this function which we have facilitated by creating an energetic context where the vibration of the earth could be condensed to the point where a dialogue could be shared. We thank you, and we are glad that this transmission has been shared, and that you, the individual, having heard this transmission, will receive it in an awareness and understanding that it is not an error, or is not a coincidence. It is not by chance that you have heard this message. So if you have been feeling recently that you would like to go into nature, that you would like to spend more time in nature, or that nature just seems to have a different quality to you than it did before, then be cognizant of how integrated those thoughts and feelings are with your current experience, and realize it is all part of the messaging that you are receiving from the expanded aspects of self, because all of it wishes for you to make the ascension into the fourth density state. You are the humanity being, you are the earth being, you are the solar system being, you are the galaxy being, you are the one. All of these beings have a desire to evolve and grow and collect more experience of itself so that they can complete the divine experience. They can complete the divine purpose. So, they are all conspiring to bring into your experience, as you are also from the higher self aspect, a culmination, a confluence of events and seeming coincidences which build, assemble, construct a reality which you can use to intuitively guide yourself towards the objective of your 3D experience, which is to be in an energetic compatibility with the ascension event when it occurs, so that you may make the transition into the fourth density state, where you will be in possession of your new dimension, your fifth dimensional way in which you will exist. And that is to identify as the group being, to have a visceral realization, understanding that you are the unity. And that very first incremental realization of unity will be the realization that you are the humanity being. And this will be the beginning of the progression of expanded self-definition, incrementally realizing of self as yet larger and larger and larger versions of the ultimate fractal. So beyond the humanity being, you will realize that you are the earth being, and then the solar system being, and then the galaxy being, and then the one. But this will occur across all time. And you are just now beginning this journey of expansion. Thank you, and we love you.